Sound awakens something deep within. Welcome to this podcast, a space to slow down, tune in, and return to the song of your soul.
Welcome, everyone. Before we begin today's episode, I feel called to share just how deeply I've been looking forward to this conversation. Our guest today is not just a big brother to me, he is a guiding light who appeared during one of the most transformative crossroads of my life. Through his presence and his profoundly simple ways of weaving spirituality into daily living, he's helped me see the sacred within the ordinary. And how divine the timing! We're recording this on a half moon day, that sacred balance of light and shadow, a reminder that both illumination and darkness have their place in our evolution. What better moment to invite his wisdom into this space to let his words ripple through the heart like moonlight, gently stirring the still waters of our inner world. And I heartily welcome Niranjan Vasireddy, also known as Vasi, who is a luminous soul who walked through the fire and found light on the other side. From a thriving corporate career to the path of entrepreneurship, from having it all to losing everything, his journey became an inward pilgrimage, one that revealed to him the true meaning of abundance. What moves me most is how he took that sacred wisdom and began weaving it back into the fabric of the real world, applying spirituality not as a theory, but as a living truth. So, Niranjananda, welcome to this podcast today, and this means a lot that you're here today.
Thank you, Lakshmi. Thank you for the kind words.
So, I want to start off by asking you if you can walk us through your journey of how you came into spirituality.
Sure. Well, so spirituality, first let me kind of clarify. Spirituality is different from religion or rituals. And I was born into a family where, my parents are very traditionally Hindu, and they used to practice quite a lot of, bhajans and all that. And along the way, I always questioned what they were doing. Not out of being a rebel or anything, but more out of curiosity to understand the deep meanings. And at many times that would be seen as a rebel, but no, I was just, even if it was a wedding and there's a ceremony being performed for it, I wanted to know what the ceremony was. I wanted to know why we were doing what we were doing. And that would be like, man, why are you asking so many questions? Just sit down, just say what you're supposed to say and be done with it. But no, that wasn't me. And so, as simple as growing up, my guru is Sri Sathya Sai Baba, and my parents were, or my grandmother was also very devoted to him, and so my father grew up with him, and to kind of like say in 7 words. So I had that, I guess, some sort of a spiritual education as well. I studied in the schools till 7th grade. Having said that, but I would always question. There was a picture of my guru in every room of the house. And I would be like, why are we putting a picture of him in every room? Not my parents could not, I mean, they would just say, yeah, it's a good thing. And, they would not have any family photos for that matter. And but I always questioned, and so then it became more as with that I went completely to the other side, if you will, wherein I did not want a picture. I did not want a shrine in my house, nothing at all. And not as a rebel, but more of trying to really understand the importance of it. So it's almost like if you were to draw a picture, the best way is you start with a clean slate, right? And so that was where unknowingly I went into that, and then as life would have it, I started. I mean, once I got into corporate, things started working well for me. One thing after another, I felt I was the one doing it. And as when things are going up, then everything goes according to whatever you're doing. Whatever you're doing, things just conspire, or the universe just helps you. And it seems like at that point that the ego was doing it. Till I got to a point once again, going back to the moon, now you start to see from the full moon, it started to wane. And I wasn't aware about the waning, but I was just thinking, hey, the moon is still bright. I can still do a lot of things. And that's where I went from corporate to entrepreneurship, thinking I'll make a lot more money over there and all that. And that journey eventually led me to, the no moon, wherein it was almost like I didn't even want to. I was like, what am I doing here? I completely felt broken down. And I didn't want to play the drama anymore. And because nothing was working the way I wanted, and no matter what I did, things just did not move. And that was when, since I had nothing else, so it was like, just to give you a complete, um, example of what happened. I, being the single earner of the family there, again, this is the ego I, little I, thinking that it was, to very well being to a point wherein I'm the one at home and my wife is the earner for the family. So it's a complete shift. You can kind of like see how the moon goes from a full to a no moon. And that journey, then eventually one day I completely broke down. And that was when I started listening to my guru's discourses a lot. And I can very well remember one specific moment wherein, he in his lecture, he was kind of saying, Mirabai was telling to Krishna in her mind that, Krishna, what can I give you? You are the one who's given me everything, including this life. So the only thing I can give you is my Hrudayam meaning the sacred heart, not your physical heart. And she said, I will give you that. And that was when I said, you know what? If that is what you wanted, take it. I'm done. I don't want anything anymore. And I just fell down and I just said, any thought that came to my mind, I said, that's not my thought. That's not my thought. And so I was able to go into that state of, or forcing myself to be in a state of thoughtlessness, I don't know, about 24 to 48 hours. And it was as if the actor all of a sudden said, I'm not going to play the drama anymore. And everything seemed like a set to me. So my house, everything was a set. And I just refused to act in the drama anymore. And that was where it was a very, very pivotal moment in my life that started to make the big shift. And it was as if the director had started to come and, started to talk to the actor and starts to explaining, because that was when I really got to be able to sit down with the universe or with the divine. And there were a whole bunch of experiences that happened, including one wherein, um, you know, I was listening to a particular, you know, ancient song, and I got out of the body and I was able to see myself. I mean, I had an out of body experience. And that really got me to realize I'm not the body, you know, I'm beyond the body. Now, from there, it took me about 2 years or so, different experiences that actually, um, there were various lessons that were taught during that time. And literally, it's as if everything started to speak because I was asking those questions. And like my pool would speak to me, the trees would speak to me, as in like the wisdom. When I'm saying speak to me, it's not like, hey, Niranjan, how are you? No, but it's like if I ask a question, it's like, you know, based on the circumstances and situation that's happening in my life, that would be related with the example through it. So, for example, a very good example that I do is my pool suddenly became like, and the algae grew and it became really green. And anybody who has a pool would know it's a big trouble to try to scrub it all out. So here I'm doing the scrubbing every single day, and I'm doing it twice a day, putting all the chemicals and running the the vacuum and all that. But yet nothing was getting cleared. And then finally, I had to go remove the pool filter, and there were 4 cartridges. And I removed all those and then basically sprayed them out and or power washed them and then put them back in. And then the pool started to clear. Then 2 days later, as I am scrubbing the pool, then it's like the pool is talking to me. And it kind of says, did you realize you had to clean the 4 cartridges of your mind? So, which is the Buddhi, Chitta, then Ahankara and Manas. So that is how in Vedas they kind of talk about um, our mind being those 4 parts. And it kind of said you have to clear all these things, then only the pool of your life will be clear, or the water of your life will be clear. I can never forget that. That's not a wisdom from book. It's not wisdom from some lecture somewhere. It is wisdom straight out from the universe, just coming there at the right moment. So if you see, I had to go through that dirty pool to get that knowledge, to get that wisdom. And so then different situations started happening. So this was very, very nice. So I then started to pursue, then eventually recognizing, um, and I would kind of say, okay, if I am God, what should I do? And there from within the answer would come. You said you're God. How can one God tell another God what to do? And I mean, these are just like amazing experiences that come. It doesn't say, no, you're not, but it gives you very, very straight out answers that you cannot, you know, um, there's beyond doubt that that is what it is. And the explanations come very, very beautifully. Then eventually, I mean, so that led me through a whole different journey, be it, my job, literally it came, I asked for it, and, I'm present somewhere, and all of a sudden things just start to happen and the job comes to me. And then later on, I come to realize the guy had not even looked at my resume. And things like that. Then eventually I again lose that job. When I say lose that job, it was given to me, it was also taken away. But then it was also a very interesting thing that my manager, who's been in that company for 26 years, she was in tears telling me that. And here I am consoling her, saying, don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. The only reason why I could say that was because I realized that the universe has got my back. And that if the universe gave me the job, it'll give me another one. And this is just a part of it. And am I able to accept that? And in fact, that is when I really took time out and I had the opportunity to go on a 30-day solitary confinement, if you will. I went to Peru. I was on a very, very strict diet. It's called a dieta. And there was some plant medicine, which I took a little bit, but I realized also what I wanted to know really was, who am I? And that was the main thing that I went. Then eventually it was not the plant medicine, but I was just on, my solitary confinement and my diet. And during which I had a lot of amazing revelations, um, which pretty much boiled down to the fact that, um, you know, when I asked him, and how is it that I'm learning all these things or remembering all these things? And the simple thing was, again, the answer that comes from within is people take time for their work. People take time to go on a vacation. People take time to spend with their spouse or their partner. People take time to spend with their family. But how many times do people really take time to spend with themselves or to spend with God or the universe? And unknowingly or knowingly, I had chosen to do that. And because of doing that, wherein I'm going to a country, I don't even speak that language, I don't know anyone, I don't know anything. And and I was not on technology. I was literally in the middle of the forest with bare necessities. So I put myself, so my hut or a house did not even have walls. I mean, it just had mosquito nets. And so all of that, uh, you know, literally because I did some of those kind of things, I was able to get deep inside. And I always had the three words that I say: observe, question, reason. And I always, whatever I observe, I question it. And the reason, what's amazing is when you try to reason, your mind can only reason till certain point. At a higher stage, your buddhi takes over and your buddhi will help you rationalize. At an even more higher state, your higher self or your God or the universe actually explains it, just like what happened at the pool. So it's not my mind, rational mind explaining. It's not my buddhi that's explaining, but it's the knowledge that comes in at that point of time and gives you that. And in that journey, then I realized, the freedom. I mean, like, who am I? Being able to completely cognize through reasoning, who am I? And understanding that. And then choosing to kind of say, well, I want to know and I want to start to apply this in the other world as well, or what we call real world. So
That's profoundly beautiful, Anaya. Thank you for sharing that. So you were going to say something. Sorry.
no, I mean, so in that sense, I think what I've learned is one of the key thing is taking time to be with yourself. When I say be with yourself is not with your phone, it's not with a book, it's not with any other thing, but at the same time, having the desire to know it. Now, I had the desire to really try to seek who am I?
Right.
And for somebody else, it's something else, and that is what they will get. So, um, yeah, I mean, that was one thing. And another big thing was, I think, which is very, very important. This is another thing that I think will be useful is the relationship that you have with the divine. Now, according to our scriptures, I mean, when I say our, the Hindu scriptures, they say that a person can have 5 different kinds of relationships with the divine. And there is a hierarchy to it. The lowest one is that of the servant master relationship, wherein it is said that the servant, one, they can't get into the master's house, and whatever the master gives, the servant takes.
Right.
The next level is that of a friend. The difference is the friend can go into the master's house and, be in their living room, enjoy whatever the master gives. But the difference is the friend cannot demand anything from the master. Meaning you can't go to your friend's house and say, hey, I'm your friend, so now give me, you know, a snack or give me a cup of tea or give me a coffee. I mean, you can request it, but you can't demand it.
Right.
Right. And another thing is you do not have any access to their wealth. As a friend, you do not have any access to their wealth at all. The servant, forget it. The servant doesn't have access to that.
Right.
Then the third level is that of a father-child. So the father-child is now the child can very well sit on the father's lap, and the child now has a right over father's property. But the child cannot go, usually in olden days, that's this, even if they could go into the master bedroom, they would not have access to the keys for the locker or the safe. So that's usually where the father's child line is drawn.
Right.
And the next level higher is that of a, husband, wife, or a spouse. So now this, when you see whatever the husband owns, so basically both have the keys to the same locker, and they have access to the bedrooms, and they, in a sense, share a lot of things. Having said that, that is still not the highest, because still there are secrets between husband and wife. As much as they get the locker and they get access to all the wealth, but they do not fully get access to the mind of the other person. And the highest is that of two lovers. And with two lovers, they are willing to give up their life for the other person. The other person is the only person in their mind, and there is nothing else. So they do not need any wealth. The only wealth that they treasure is their company, their togetherness, or their, just even the thought of them. And that is where you had the Mirabais and the Radha Krishnas and all that. So that is the highest level. Now, why I say that is based on where we are or where we perceive, we limit ourselves to the access of the divine and the divine wealth. Now, having said that, all stages are important. You can go through each stage linearly. So for me, one thing is I do not have any fear of God. I look at God as my own mother or father. By that,
Right.
yes, if I've done something wrong, I know there are consequences I have to take, but my parents are going to love me no matter what, period. So
Okay.
whenever I approach God, so that is when I first approach God as a child. So literally, I would say, I'm just going to go and sit in their lap. Again, this is all mentally. But
Right.
when you think about it, a lot of people have boundaries, and they do not allow that kind. So, for example, with my guru, Sat Sai Baba, most people, everybody sits down, he sits on a chair, everybody bows to him like he's a holy god man walking down planet Earth, and everybody is just like, okay, you're God. But for me, what I started to do was I went to him as a child. I mean, I literally studied in his schools. So
Mhm.
in my mind, I would be like, you know what? You're my father. You're my mother. Let me actually. So within my mind, I would hold his hands and walk for darshan. I would sit in his lap where everybody is doing bhajan. Again, this is all in my mind. But I'm
Right.
comfortable sitting in his lap and watching the universe or everybody pray or do bhajan. Earlier, I would also sit down and I would play. I would sing when I felt like that. Then I would also get up and I would sit on his lap. I would hold his hand and I would say, "Take me to the edge of the universe." As a father is taking the child to the edge of the universe and showing. So that is how I got very comfortable with God. So that's wherever I go. So then even when I went to Peru, it was very interesting because when I did even ayahuasca, it was a lot of, it's like a Mount Everest for the mind. And I was shown things wherein, I guess, the goddess, she's like, pick up the sword and fight. And I'm like, no, I'm not coming here to fight. I've come here to love you. I've come here to see my mother, and I've come here to thank my mother. So I'm not going to fight. And that revealed a lot of things for me over there as well. That because I did not feel the necessity to fight, and I was always like, look, I've just come here to love. I'm not going to do anything. And but those were all different kind of, I guess, mental tests, if you will. And that's why I kind of call it the Mount Everest climb of my own spiritual um, grit, because it tested me in a lot of things. And then that is where I also realized that something which comes out of illusion cannot give me the truth that I seek.
Right.
So, and that is where I realized, yeah, there's beautiful things about plant medicine and all that. But at the same time, I realized what I needed had to come from within, had to come from without any, substance or anything. And what was funny was, the moment I realized that, then my guru's voice from inside of me kind of says, um, I mean, it says in Telugu, but I'll translate it. First, I'll say it in Telugu. Yera Swamiki uh, ఒక ఇదేంటి ప్లాంట్ తీసుకుంటే నీకు మోక్షం దొరుకుతుందంటే నీకు ఇవ్వకుండా ఉంటారా అని. సో so the translation is, Yera, I mean, like, hey, do you think, your guru was Swami, who knows everything, who, if he knew that you would get realization through a plant or plant medicine, won't he have given it to you?
Right.
And that was when I realized, that was not what would give me that. But then when I asked, so then why did you send me there? Then the answer was, didn't you want to experience it? And it was very true. I wanted to experience it. I wanted to know what it was. He said, no, now go back and tell everyone that doesn't give you what you're looking for. It has other things that it can do, but
Right.
not like self-realization. That's not what it
Right.
can do. And so again, like, these are very, very important things. So that's where, coming back, I think the very first thing is the relationship that you have with your divine. And eventually it gets to a point wherein you become so comfortable that I take my cup of coffee. Now I have a shrine. I understand the importance of a shrine, and I will complete that as well. What I realized, learning a lot about energy and energy medicine, energy and vibrational radiesthesia. And then now eventually I have a shrine. I take my cup of coffee. I just go and sit as if I'm going and sitting with the divine. And whatever question comes, I just ask the question. We have a conversation. So for me today, it is embodying that in every walk of my life. It's not a specific time I take for prayer.
Okay.
Because I kind of like said, and I chant like the Gayatri mantra wherever I can, whenever I can. So it's like prayer is with me all the time. So I don't specifically go. But having said that, then I also become aware that now I do have a shrine, and why I keep it, so that the children can get used to it. Now, if I stopped using a shrine, now I really know where to go when times get tough, and how to, pull things from the source. But my children do not have a clue if I'm not practicing it. And so then it started becoming more about the things that I need to pass on to my children, not as a ritual. So today we don't do it as a ritual, but we see it as a place wherein they get comfortable and kind of say, oh yeah, God is there. And for anyone who comes to my house, God is not in a locker room called puja room. The room is open right dang in the center of my house, because that's how I believe that the entire house is divine. That's it. So there is nothing that I can hide. There is no need to hide anything anymore. And I live my life that way.
So is that why you have a chair in your shrine so you can go sit down?
The chair is usually for my guru, wherein I sit
Oh,
down at the bottom.
got
But
it.
there were times wherein part of embodying the divine is you being comfortable in that chair.
Right.
So many of us, when we give a chair certain status, we feel it very awkward to kind of go and sit in it. So having said that, so there were times wherein part of the journey was wherein I embodied it, I went and sat not as Niranjan, but as the divine and I as one. And this is also interesting because when I went to Arunachalam once, and during the trip, I mean, I went with the intention of, you know, um, being grateful at the same time, merging both the material and the spiritual. So I was always saying so as I was doing um, the walk around the hill, I was saying the Mrityunjay mantra. So
Okay.
if you're familiar with the Mrityunjay mantra, then that is all about moksha. And um, interesting. So once I go into the temple, I did take the special thing we use. I mean, again, the universe just conspires. So you know someone who knows someone, they're
Right.
taking you. And then at one point, they just took the garland from the idol and they put it on me and my wife. I think, no, on me. And then as I just stood there, the voice from within kind of says, "You, you wanted to be God. You are God."
Yeah, I remember you telling
And
me.
just embodying that. Now, as I say, I get chills, but it's just embodying that moment and kind of accepting it. Not like, oh
Right.
my God, this is sacred. No, if I and the divine are one, I should be able to embody that. And the moment you're able to embody that, then it is you recognize that you are very much in control how you want to command the universe to do. And again, the God just commands. God doesn't request. God doesn't say please. God is not looking to help. God is always looking to serve. It's no
Right.
different than a king. A king is always looking to serve. King is not helping his people. Uh, but that's a thing that one should be willing to take. Now, in real life, coming back, as because this is a bridge between material and spiritual, one of the key things here is people do this in their regular life unknowingly. It is no different than an employee who starts down at a particular level, then they rise up to a manager, a director. Now, that's going the linear way. Now, you can do that to one extent, but ultimately, when you're saying a CEO, it's not like because they got promoted X amount of times, they are next. They could be next in line for the CEO, but they may not get it.
Right.
The CEO, one has to be ready and they need to accept it and say, I am the CEO. Once they start to feel it, they will be given the position. Again, no different. And that's what an entrepreneurship taught me is to be, when you are an entrepreneur, you are in a way, you have to know all departments. You can't say this is not my department. I mean, one can be good at marketing, but then one has to learn legal, one has to learn HR, one has to learn all the different facets of it. One doesn't need to be an expert in it, but one certainly has to know all of it. And one has to accept that they are the CEO. Everybody comes and says, what do I do? You might not very well know what to do. But that is part of being a CEO. That's part of being the divine. Is your decision, you become aware of your decision. Whatever you're deciding at that point is going to affect everybody down the stream. It's going to affect that company. And so then when you take that same thing, you can very well start to look and say, how high do you want to take it? And the highest thing is God or the universe, the divine. And that is what when I started looking at the Upanishads, and that is why that is the highest knowledge. The highest knowledge is the knowledge knowing that you and the divine are one. And that is the end of knowledge, because after that there is no other thing to be known.
I cannot be more than grateful to hear all of these experiences of yours, Anaya. Thank you for sharing.
Thanks for tuning in. Take a deep breath, carry the peace with you, and I will see you next time.